Hello everyone, it's Mr. E here, and today I have a bit of a critical video. I'm going to be, as you probably noticed from the thumbnail, I'm going to be criticizing and fixing Burst Limiter Override, which is one of the keystones for Ogren. Now, I'm doing this for a couple reasons. One is I love Darktide, and I want Darktide to get better. I don't want to enter myself into the group of people who says that this game has been fixed and it's absolutely perfect now. Sorry, Jefficus. Great video, by the way. But I want to voice, if I have a voice at all, to be heard by Darktide or by Fat Shark. I want it to be out there saying, hey, these things are not where they should be, and let's get them fixed. And if Fat Shark is listening, I mean this in the nicest possible way. It is very obvious when I'm looking at a lot of the skills and a lot of the talents in the tree that you were rushed. You had to produce a product to get patch 13 and patch 14 pushed out to basically save the game by getting these talent trees, out the door. And at some point, you gotta say, it's good enough, right? You gotta put in some filler talents like no stopping me, like the smoke grenade, all that stuff, and just ship it. And I think that's a good intuition because there are some examples of games that can continue putting in features, feature creep, trying to get it absolutely perfect. And, Path of Exile 2 has been a great example of that. Although, what a great example. But Star Citizen is a very negative example of that. And I don't want this game to, be a Star Citizen. I want it to be a Path of Exile too. So we can continue working on this. And that's what I'm here to do, is I'm here to help you, Fat Shark, or help you players to understand why these skills are not up to par with the current state of the game and how we can make them better. So we're going to address this in two parts. First, I'm going to be going over the skill and breaking down why it's lackluster and comparing it against some of the other things that are in the game that are powerful. And then I'm going to be suggesting a new and revised version of the skill. Now, I do have a limitation for how the skill is going to be changed. I don't want to put any extra work on Fat Shark's plate. I'm keeping it all based on changing numbers and mechanics that are already in the game. You might have an idea like, oh, Burst Limiter Override, when it shoots its lucky shot, it should shoot a free grenade it's lucky, so it homes in on enemies' heads and it explodes them. That's really cool and all, but that would require a lot of effort from some devs, probably some art team, a lot of assets. And let's give them the path of least resistance and just do some number tweaks. Let's use some mechanics that are already in the game to fix these skills up and keep them relevant with the meta in 2024. So before we go ahead and get started with the meat and potatoes here of breaking down the skill, if you like the idea, if you have ideas for future videos or nodes you've always been frustrated by and want to know what tweak we could put on it, I'd really appreciate to hear in the comments from you what you think. I would love a like and a subscribe, help the channel out a lot, and don't bother commenting, feel no pain, because I'm coming for this bad boy right over here next. But anyway, thank you very much for your support, and let's begin breaking down what exactly is wrong with Burst Limiter Override. So, first and foremost, we need to talk about what Burst Limiter Override is, and I'll be calling it Blow for short from here on out, and I will give it one thing. It certainly does do what it says on the tin. It blows. What it gives you by default is 8% chance of triggering Lucky Bullet and not consuming ammo when making range attacks. So let's pause right there and talk about how little that is. That is 1 in every 12.5 shots that will be shot for free. If you are using a rapid fire weapon like the Atlas, the Twin Link Stubber, this little baby right here, that is so unnoticeable because it doesn't make much impact on you, that this bullet wasn't used in your magazine. It basically amounts to giving you 8% extra ammo. And guess what? We have a node up here, Ammo Stash, that gives you 25% extra ammo, triple that amount, and it's just a regular node. It's not even a keystone. Now, the only benefit of Burst Limiter Override is it doesn't consume the ammo from the magazine. So if you have a small magazine weapon like the Grenade Gauntlet or like the Rumbler or like the Kickback, and you shoot that shot, you won't have to reload immediately after. But it's so low a chance and it's so unpredictable that oftentimes this isn't used effectively. I'll give you 3 examples of how this goes wrong. If I have 2 maniacs approaching me and I go to shoot them, and on this shot I happen to trigger Lucky Shot, what can happen is I'm lined up to shoot the maniac, and I'm spamming the shot button to get one out as soon as I'm reloaded, and I accidentally double tap and I fire both shots. The first one kills the maniac, the second one just shoots into blank space, right? The other thing I could do is I'm anticipating that I have to reload after this. I don't have enough time before the maniac gets to me, so I shoot my shot and I swap to my melee without noticing that the gun has automatically reloaded for me. So I just completely don't even get the benefit of it there. Or I might even, shoot the shot and then be like, oh, I need to reload, and hit R to reload, but the gun is already reloaded and I don't notice. You don't want things like this where you're having to adapt on the fly to, oh my gosh, I got that 1 in 12 chance to get an extra bullet in there, and it puts you on the back foot. You want to know going into an encounter whether or not you can count on this, this bullet being doubled. The other thing actually I'll save that for later. Let's go on and talk about some of these nodes down here. So let's start with good shooting. Good shooting, the shot that triggers Lucky Bullet is a guaranteed critical if it hits. So this exists for one reason and one reason only. It's because on the Atlas or any of the Twin Link stubbers, you have this blessing right here, Charmed Reload. 5 bullets loaded from reserve on critical hit. Now, if you know anything about Ogren, you'd know that he has a 2.5% base critical chance, and he can get up to an extra 8% from this node right here, which is okay. So he has a 10% chance without anything else on his tree of getting this crit to trigger. And there's no other nodes on the tree, so he had to put it on his weapon. So he has like 10.5% chance of getting the weapon blessing Charm Reload to trigger and loading those bullets. Now, if you can do that math, that's 1 in every 10 bullets that's going to crit and load 5 bullets. So you're going to be losing ammo over time. The reason you like good shooting is because it adds in the extra 8 or 12% chance that it would roll separately. So you have another chance to get a critical shot from a different source, which gives you a better chance of loading in those critical bullets. That is the only reason this exists. Now, I've seen other people take this with other weapons, but let me show you why it's a wasted node if you are not using Charm Reload. And that's because Ogren weapons, as a rule, are designed with really, really low finesse or critical ratings, which means that when you're looking at the critical damage of these weapons, so like this is the Ripper gun, for example, the highest that it can do with an unarmored shot or an infested shot is 510. With a critical shot, it does 663. Now you might be like, wow, that's more damage. Just for some reference, let's pull up the Vrax Mark V. Oh, hold on, it'll be called the Columnus Mark V IAG. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. There it is. Can I go to this gun? All right, so here's the Columnus Mark V infantry autogun for every other class. Its normal shots are 117. When it gets a critical, it's 258. It's 250% of the damage when it gets a critical. Every Ogren weapon, when it gets a critical, you see this is the kickback now, it has 1800 at a base. When it gets a critical, it has 2200. That's only gaining about 25% of its damage. The Forend, the Ripper gun we were just looking at, is only gaining about 20% of its damage whenever it gets a crit. So it's a 1.2 multiplier versus a 2.5 multiplier for these weapons. Ogren weapons do not have any real benefit out of getting a crit. And if you want to break it down further math-wise, if you think about it like this, a critical hit is 663 over 510. Let's go ahead and calculator. So we go 663 divided by 510 is 1.3. So that's a 30% damage increase for getting a critical. However, that's only 1 out of every 8 bullets, roughly, if we're using the 12% chance. So we would divide this by 8, and we would get a 16... Oh, that's not even right. Hold on. We're dividing 0.30, the 30%, by 8. There we go. So we would get a 3.75% damage increase on average across those 8 bullets that we fired, if one of them decides to crit. So this might as well say you get a 4% damage increase. Getting criticals on Ogre weapons is pretty much useless. So this is only there for that one interaction with Charm Reload on the Twin Link Stubbers. Okay, so that needs some real work. I'm going to tell you that right now. Then we're going to come over here to maximum firepower. I think this Keystone modifier is actually pretty well designed. There's one tweak I'm going to make to it, but I like that it offers 200% ability cooldown reduction for 2 seconds when Lucky Bullet triggers. That reminds me a lot of one node that you might also be reminded of, Invocation of Death. Invocation of Death reads 200% ability cooldown regeneration for 4 seconds on melee critical hits. Now there's two really notable differences here. They do both offer 200% ability cooldown, plus 200%, so that means triple ability cooldown. This one offers it for 4 seconds, however, it's on melee hits. This, the Ogren one offers it on ranged attacks, which can make it more consistent, because you can put out more range attacks. You always have enemies within range for range attacks, but it's only when Lucky Bullet triggers, and Lucky Bullet can only happen up to 12% of the time if you take more burst limiter overrides, versus Invocation of Death, which scales on your critical chance. And critical is very, very accessible in this game. You can get a ton of crit. You can put crit on your weapon, you can put crit on your talent tree, you can get crit blessings, all that stuff. So we are hard capped at getting to 12% chance for this to happen, which means that if you're shooting a slower firing weapon like the kickback, what's the reload time of this thing? It takes between 1 and 1 this is 1 and 0.6 seconds to reload. So at best you need to fire 8 times, so you would reload for 0.6 seconds. So you're firing for like 6 seconds or so before you get a single one of these to proc, maybe, if you have all the nodes in here. So that makes it really, really inconsistent, and this is pretty much way more useful on faster firing weapons, which leaves the slower firing weapons out in the cold, as if they already weren't hurt enough by the fact that this is effectively a completely random chance for them. And then finally, more burst limiter overrides gives you an increase to 12%. And 12% is what is that in fraction form? That's 100 divided by, this is not going to give me what I want, is it? It's 1 in 8.333 repeating, of course. So that's a really, really low chance. Yeah, it's better than the 8% chance, which is a 1 in like 12.5 or whatever, but still a really, really low chance. It means you're going to have to fire the kickback 8+ times to get a single free shot, and you have no idea when it's coming. Okay, so here's what I want to say about this skill before I move on and fix it. First and foremost, it is super obvious to me in reading this skill. Here, I'll hover over it so you can see. It's super obvious to me in reading this skill that this was designed very early in their making of the skill trees. I happen to know, and I think a lot of people know, that the skill trees were being designed when the game was launched. They had those sort of placeholder talent trees for all the classes, and they were already working on talents to fill out these talent trees. Now, the reason that I know this came out, or this was worked on really early, is because the numbers in it are so reserved. Now remember, they did add this node right here, the maximum firepower, later on. They changed that node. But burst limiter override has always been really, really reserved. And the reason is because when this game came out, everything was super reserved. Blessings on weapons that are now 20% crit for 6 seconds were 5% crit for 5 seconds. They didn't know how carried away player power would get if they gave them good blessings. And I think that they were probably, cautious about giving Ogren an ability to have a 25% chance to shoot free range attacks, and then having a bunch of Ogrens running roughshod over their levels with, unlimited kickbacks or rumbler grenades or something like that. So they played it really, really safe, and they put this at 8%. It most makes me think of It makes me think of the original version of Twinned Blast, which is that bad grenade perk I talked about in one of my last videos, where you throw 2 grenades and it has a 20% chance to happen. That's already a low percent, but if you are a real veteran, you remember that started as a 10% chance to double a grenade, and that is abysmally low. And it really shows that when they started this game, they did not want to give that level of player power, but there's other things in the game that give a ton of player power, and now this one is lagging really far behind. So for a point of comparison, before I show you my revised version of this skill, let's look at what Shock Trooper does. And Shock Trooper gives critical hits with las weapons free ammo. And it does the exact same thing. It doesn't take the ammo out of the magazine, so your magazine is effectively, if you had 100% crit, you have an unlimited magazine on Veteran. Only for las weapons, but las weapons have always been pretty good. Prior to patch whatever it was, the Kentrail Mark 12 infantry las gun was the best gun in the game for damage throughput. It had the most damage per mag, so you could extend your ammo a super huge amount. The crit wasn't as insane back then as it is now, but now we have the recon las guns, and you can get like 50% crit and stack it to the moon. So you extend your 1100 round mag to like, 1700. The very obvious difference between a player running Shock Trooper, who does, roughly Ogren levels of damage with range weapons, they do good range damage, is that a veteran running Shock Trooper will use far less ammunition than the average player would throughout a mission, and Ogren running Burst Limiter Override will use almost 2 full servings. Like half of the ammo in the map will go to that Ogren. The fact that you are running this node that gives 12% chance to have free ammo, and you have 25% extra ammo, and you're still running out of ammo constantly throughout the mission, means that this is not offering enough. If Shock Trooper exists, and it makes veterans able to continually, just have infinite ammo throughout the mission. Not to mention the fact that veterans also have access to Survivalist, which is granting them free ammo all the time. So I don't want to nerf Shock Trooper. Am I a big fan of Shock Trooper? No, I think it kind of needs some tweaking myself, but that's for a different day. But this Burst Limiter Override blow needs to be brought up to snuff. And let's go ahead and hop into showing off what I think is a good fix for this skill. Okay, so here is the new version. I don't want you to focus on the bottom part of the screen, so I'm going to cover it up with the calculator for right now. I want you to focus up here. We're going to talk about these one at a time. So first off, the skill is getting renamed. It is no longer going to be named Burst Limiter Override or Blow, because it doesn't blow anymore. It's actually really, really good now. Lucky number 7 is the new skill, and in lucky number 7, if you take it, every 7th bullet is a lucky bullet that does not consume ammo. This is deterministic. It counts up as a buff on your bar. It can use the same node. In fact, if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they could squeeze an extra one in there, but they can use the same thing because it's going to happen every 7 rounds. So you'll have a buff on your bar that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and when it says 6, you know that next round is going to be free and it's not going to consume ammo from the magazine. So that makes it already so much better for single shot weapons, because this allows you to do a couple of things. You could play around this and be like, oh, I'm on 5 right now. I'm going to go ahead and waste a shot, or just shoot a shot at some enemy that is trash, and then I'm going to pocket it, and I'm going to hold this thing because I know I've got a lucky bullet in the chamber. And that way, the next time I'm in a big engagement, I'm popping up my rumbler, and I'm going to shoot 2 grenades at once. That is already super fucking huge comparatively to, I have no idea when this thing is going to go off, and it's probably going to shoot into nothing and waste my free shot. Also, it is a 1 in 7. It's not a chance, but it happens 1 in every 7 times, which is 1 divided by 7, 14%, which is almost double the chance of 8% that you get at a baseline here. I think that is way more equitable with the amount of chance that other classes have to proc their abilities, especially considering so many other classes have this crit rating that's up in the 50% area. We need to have this skill, if it's competing with heavy hitter in the same tree, it needs to be equitable. And this isn't going to make the game get carried away. Like it's 25 or it's 14% free ammo. It's 1 out of every 7 shots. it's not going to get the class like make it broken by any stretch of the imagination. All right, let's take a look at the second part here. Good shooting. Good shooting is the same name as it was before, but this is going to make lucky bullets also critical strikes, just like I said before. However, it also makes critical strikes count as lucky bullets, and this is super important because lucky bullets don't consume ammo. Oh no, I'm revealing my secrets. Lucky bullets don't consume ammo, and therefore we can actually spec into not consuming ammo. So we could put extra crit onto our weapons if we want a higher chance to not consume ammo when we're firing that weapon. That would make, that would make building around this node so much more engaging. And it's already 1 in 7, which is like a 14% chance, but then you add on your critical chance of 5%. If you put it on your weapon, oops, that was a times. It'd be 14 plus 5 from your weapon plus 2.5 from the class plus 5 if you happen to have a psyker on the team that has the wrong aura on. We're looking at roughly 25% free ammo. Now we're talking, baby. Like this is actually like pretty decent numbers. But remember, this sounds insane that I'm giving this class a 25% crit rate on their range attacks. You're like, oh my god, their fucking damage is gonna blow everyone else out of the water. Calm down. Remember that their crits only do 20% extra damage compared to your crits when you're playing veteran with an infantry autogun and they're doing 250% damage. If you crit at that rate, which you already have a 50% crit rate on veteran, so calm down, buddy, you are doing insane damage. They are just getting the ability to stack some extra stats here to get more free ammo, if you're going all the way down here and getting this, you want to consume less ammo. One thing I'm going to go back here for and talk about lucky number 7 a tiny bit more is that every 7th bullet, if you think about that from a perspective of what we had here with the Atlas, every 7th bullet is going to give you charmed reload. It's going to give you 5 bullets loaded back in. So out of every 7 times you fire, you're going to load 5 back in. So you're going to be losing 2 bullets every time you shoot 7, which is good. It's not fully consistent, but you could make it more consistent and you could fire forever if you put more crit in the tree, or if you went all the way down to the bottom of the tree, which we'll show in a second. Okay, then let's go over here. Maximum firepower. This is staying basically the exact same, except maximum firepower normally reads when 200 plus 200% or triple ability cooldown for 2 seconds when you get a lucky bullet. Now I've changed it so that it gives that buff when you get a critical. So if you don't want to come over here and take good shooting and get the luckies are critical strikes and criticals are also luckies, you can just take this and have enough crit that you can, just enough crit so that you can get this ability cooldown. Because remember, crits aren't here for damage. They are here for this, for the ability cooldown, or they're here to give us free ammo. So you can choose, or you can pick both. You can have extra free ammo for every percentage crit you get that percentage free ammo, or for every percentage crit, you have that much more chance to lower your ability cooldown. And that'll completely depend on your build. And then finally, we have can't count to 7, because we've all seen the Ogren who's in the jet and he's counting on his fingers and he's only got 5 fingers on his hand. He can't keep track of what the 7th bullet is, but he can count to 5 on his hand. So every 5th bullet is a lucky bullet instead. And this raises the, obvious free bullet count to 20%, which if you look at the numbers we had before, we had 8 as our baseline, and then it goes up to 12 when you take this bottom node. So 12 divided by 8 is roughly 1.5, and now we have 20 divided by 14 is a little bit less, right? So this isn't that big of an upgrade comparatively, but it's deterministic, and this is going to make it so that your single shot weapons have it much more often, and it's going to make twin link stubbers completely reload independent. You don't need to reload them anymore. You just fire away as long as you are willing to invest in charm reload. But this frees you up to maybe not use Charm Reload. Maybe you want to take some other stuff because you already have a reload ability in Point Blank Barrage. This frees you up so you don't have to take Charm Reload in every time using a Twin Lake Stubber, and I think that's great. So that is my revised version of Blow. It's called Lucky Number 7. I think it is way, way better. I think if this was incorporated into the game, this node would be actually competitive. You would see ranged Ogrins that are not consuming half of the ammo on the map, and you're able to build a hybrid ranged Ogren who has a ranged weapon that's very, very powerful that they can pull out in a pinch. Like the ability to pull out your Rumbler and shoot 2 grenades, because you prepped it for that situation, allows you to plan around it, which I think is just so much better than the original version. And its overall numbers, the numbers, the percentages of crits, or the percentages of free ammo that you're getting are brought up to snuff with where the rest of the ammo efficiency nodes in the game are for range focus classes like this. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this very much. If you did, and you really enjoyed it and you wanted me to make more of them, you can subscribe and let me know down in the comments. You can also become a member to my channel. There's both $5 and $10 tiers available. You get cool E's beside your name. I'm working on some emotes, and all that stuff is very, very good. You can see the names of my members scrolling by on the screen right now. I'll put this down so you can see it, more clearly. And with all that being said, I appreciate all of you very much for watching, and I hope you have a good day. Mystery out.